Happy League New Year, everyone. I'm Amber Theoharis. Welcome into our Raiders 2023 free agency preview. NFL Network's Brian Baldinger and Super Bowl champion, who also happens to be a Raider, James Jones, will be along in just a bit. Here's where the Raiders are entering 2023. They have 3 Pro Bowl players under contract: Devontae Adams, Max Crosby, and Darren Waller. So we're all set there. The NFL's 2022 rushing leader, Josh Jacobs, well, he's set to play under the franchise tag. He and the Raiders have until July 17th to reach a long-term deal. And then there's that one tiny glaring issue, the quarterback. With Derek Carr now a New Orleans Saint, there's no doubt that quarterback is the Raiders' #1 need this year. But will they find one through the draft or free agency or both? Well, the good news is that there is a lot of money that the Raiders have to spend in free agency as far as cap space. Taking a look at the most available cap space in the NFL, the Raiders have a little over $39 million. That's good for top 5. Only the Chicago Bears are up there at the top, and they also have the #1 pick, so things are looking good for the Chicago Bears. But taking a look at some of the first decisions that the Raiders have to make about who of their own people, which Raiders that are becoming free agents do they want to re-sign? Well, we know Derek Carr is now in New Orleans. He's gone. Mac Hollins, their number 2-3 receiver, he's a free agent as well. The entire side of the right offensive line, Jermaine Illuminor at offensive tackle and Alex Bars, the guard, they are both free agents. And then the backup tight end and Foster Moreau, who saw a lot of playing time with Darren Waller, out with injury, he is also a free agent. So decisions to be made, and let's kick off our coverage and bring in our first guest, NFL Network's Brian Baldinger. Hey, Baldy, man, it's good to see you. I feel like we're about to do a Baldy's breakdown. You've got the whiteboard in the back. Are we going to break down some film and some free agency here?
Well, we can break down the Raiders right now. We'll keep the film kind of on the back burner here, Amber, but if you want to dial up some tape of what Josh Jacobs did last year, I'm happy to provide.
Well, we all know what he did. He led the league in rushing, and, he got the franchise tag. We saw Saquon Barkley also get the franchise tag as well. So this is a trend in the NFL with running backs. And from a business standpoint, Dave Ziegler had to make a business decision. Do you like this call? And especially when you look at, there are a lot of running backs in the draft this year.
It's a deep running back draft. It's going to be, because almost every team in college football right now, Amber, is playing at least 2 running backs, so there's just a lot of guys, and I could go through the list of all of them. We don't need to do that now, but it's just a financial. I mean, Josh Jacobs wants a guaranteed contract like every other player, but it's just hard to give running backs second contracts. I mean, Derrick Henry right now is being shopped. He's been the prohibitive #1 running back in this league for a long time. But you could say Josh Jacobs, Austin Eckler was undrafted. Look at the production that you get from Austin Eckler. And so really the Eagles played 3 different running backs last year. They're not going to sign Miles Sanders. It's just the trend in the league. Cowboys are probably going to, release Ezekiel Elliott at some point here. It's just hard to pay 2 guys. It's hard to pay 1. And look, Josh should be rewarded. And that's what the franchise tag will do for him this year. There's really not any way around it right now.
Yeah, especially when you're paying your starting quarterbacks, if they're any good, the top tier in the $50 million or more range. Naturally, there's only so much money to go around. But there is another running back on the Raiders roster, a young Zamir White that we'll see in his second year. Could he be a complement to Josh Jacobs? Could we see him be used a little bit more?
Because Josh was so good and so healthy last year, Amber, Zamir White, I think he only had 17 carries. So that's 17 carries split over, 17-game season. That's just not enough sample size for me to go on. Now, he's a 4th-round pick. You got to give 4th-round picks a chance. But because Josh was so good, he just really never got a chance to get on the field very much. But I'd like to see more of him. He was a good player at Georgia. He split time with James Cook. James Cook got a chance to play in Buffalo, and he played really well. In fact, he might be their running back #1 going into next year. We'll see what they do in the draft. But I'd like to see more from Zamir, but I just didn't see enough to say, okay, that's a guy that, we definitely have running back #2 on the roster. I don't know that anybody can say that right now.
And you know what a lot of people don't really talk about is if you look at Josh McDaniels' offenses coming from the Patriots, any success that they had usually was using multiple running backs. So actually last year was a little different for Josh McDaniels to have a bell cow like Josh Jacobs. So we'll see how they use their other running backs this year as well. Let's talk about the offensive line performance. That's your area of expertise, being a former NFL lineman. Look, the Raiders' offensive line, as I said, the whole right side is our free agents. You've got Alex Bars, you've got Jermaine Illuminor. What would you bring them back? Would you go outside and look for a free agent? There's some other guys out there.
There are other guys out there. Illuminor played pretty well, Amber, and he gave up 3 sacks in that time. It was pretty good. He gave up probably too many penalties. I think he had 10 penalties last year. It's probably too many. But for a guy that had been kind of a transitory in this league and really had never been in one place long enough to really nail down a spot, he played pretty good. But there's guys out there. Juwan Taylor's out there in Jacksonville right now, free agency. I know other teams covet him. He's a big, dependable player. He's kind of what you want at right tackle. He's not a star, but he's pretty. He's a pretty good player. And then there's Isaac Seumalo. Isaac Seumalo, I know the kid. He is an amazing person, Amber. He's one of the smartest people you'll ever meet. He can play every position on the line. He's been the right guard for the Eagles, but he's played tight end. He's played left guard, left tackle. He can play anywhere you need him. He's just, he doesn't make mental errors. He's very, very quick thinker, good on his feet. Came back from an injury last year, started every game. He was an outstanding player. I don't know that the Eagles can keep him. I just don't. But if I was to covet one player for the Raiders in free agency at any position, I'd take Isaac Seumalo. I think he makes Dylan Parham, Colton Miller. I think he makes everybody better up front right now.
Yeah, and that would be a great compliment, as you said, to Dylan Parham. What a great draft pick for the Raiders to get him in the later rounds.
I agree.
And be able to have that type of production. Before I let you go, Baldy, I got to get your take on the quarterback situation here in Las Vegas. Look, it's a national story. They let Derek Carr go. He's now with the Saints. Jarrett Stidham is a free agent. We'll see if they bring him back in a backup role. But if you were Dave Ziegler, put your GM hat on, what would you do at the quarterback position for the Raiders?
I think it'd be tough to go draft a guy right now and get one of the top 5 players at that position in this draft. I think it'd be tough right now and to try and break him into Josh's system. I think Garoppolo makes a lot of sense to me. Aaron Rodgers makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, this offense is ready to roll. I think it's hard to win games if you're playing a rookie quarterback. And, some of these guys might be ready to go. I don't think the Raiders could get C.J. Stroud. I don't think they could get Bryce Young. Say Will Levis. I think Will Levis could play. I don't know that he's ready to play right now and win games for you. But this offense is ready to roll. This should be, with the right guy at that position, they should be a top 10 offense, Amber. There's really no weakness to it. I mean, you fill in a position or two, at right guard or right tackle if you have to. And they've got everything else kind of set.
Yeah.
So
high expectations. They just got to get the quarterback
position.
There should
be high expectations.
And
Second year in the system.
I'm with you. I like the Jimmy Garoppolo idea. Maybe you bring in Jarrett Stidham because you know that Jimmy hasn't played a full season in the last couple of years. You have Jarrett Stidham to back him up. And then maybe in the draft, maybe you do get an Anthony Richardson or one of the other Will Levis to fall down to that position at number 7, or maybe you move up a spot or 2 to get him. So that seems to kind of be the stance that a lot of people take that seems very practical. But Baldy, where's the next vacation for you? People that don't know, Baldy's a world traveler. He's always in the most exotic places. Where are we snorkeling next, my friend?
Well, I'm glad you asked me that, Amber. I'm recently back from Belize and Costa Rica, where I dove every day. Had a great time. Love Belize. Anybody that's a diver, scuba, snorkeler, free diver, Belize is your place. But I will be in the Bahamas on Saturday. I know that. I do have a flight to the Bahamas, Luthra Island, on Saturday. I will be in the water Saturday and Sunday. I will make it back out to LA in time to start the official league year for free agency. But, it's some kind of to clear my head, Amber, to get ready for free agency.
Have a Mai Tai for me.
Bahamas seem just right.
Yeah, have a Mai Tai for me with an umbrella in it. Clear your head for all of us.
Okay.
Baldy, have fun out there in the Bahamas. Thanks for giving us a little bit of your time.
Okay. You got it, Amber. Take care.
All right, when we come back, we're going to be joined by our very own James Jones. He is going to break down the quarterbacks and the wide receivers here in this free agency period. That's next. This segment has been brought to you by Allegiant, the official airline of the Las Vegas Raiders. Low fares, nonstop flights. Book now only at Allegiant.com.
60 years in the making, the Raiders now have a permanent place to call home, and the doors are open to get a world-class behind-the-scenes tour of their new home. An attraction unlike any other in Las Vegas, Allegiant Stadium. The Las Vegas Raiders invite you to experience the expertly guided tour that includes exclusive access to areas restricted to only football players, coaches, and staff. For more information, visit AllegiantStadium.com/tours.
I need to try it first.
Welcome back as we continue to cover the Raiders' offensive needs and what their strategy might be in free agency. We bring in our good friend James Jones, Super Bowl champion, and of course, he was a Raider as well. We're in that Raiders shirt. It's good to see you, JJ.
Yeah, what side is it on?
It's there. It's by your heart. It's where it's supposed to be. We miss you here in studio, but it's good to catch up on a little Raiders news with you here in the offseason. And of course, we got to start out with the wide receivers if we're talking to you and your good friend Davante Adams. That was the big story of the offseason in 2022. That's when we learned that Dave Ziegler, Josh McDaniels, they are not afraid to make a big trade if it makes sense. They already did that to bring Davante Adams, and we saw what it did for this franchise. He had over 1,500 yards of offense last year. So the question for this year, I think, in the wide receiver department, with Mac Hollins also being a free agent, you got guys like Darren Waller and you got guys like Hunter Renfrow under contract, so they'll be here. Do they need to supplement and bring in another receiver, maybe like a true number 2 for Davante?
Absolutely. And I mean, you talk about Hunter Renfrow. We all are fans of Hunter Renfrow, the way he runs routes and how he's able to get open. But when you talk about what the Raiders need, you need a guy that can blow the top off of a defense and make explosive plays. You have Davante Adams, who can do everything, especially run any type route you want him to run. You have Hunter Renfrow, who's able to work the slot, who's able to do anything he wants to do. Now you need a guy on the other side that can truly take the top off of a defense. So when defenses line up, they have to identify where this guy is, because he will have explosive plays and be able to blow this game open. And that's what the Raiders need on the other side. And I'm looking at guys in free agents, Nelson Aguilar, Jacoby Myers, and the reason why I bring those two guys up is because you're going to have a quarterback come in here, and they're not going to be, superstar, bona fide superstar quarterback. So you want to get guys who know the system, right? You get Nelson Aguilar, who's been in the Patriots offense. You get Jacoby Myers, who's been in that Patriots offense. Guys that have speed, that understand the offense. So right when they land in Las Vegas, they know the playbook like the back of their hand. And then another guy that comes to mind is Marvin Jones. I know he's up there in age, but he can still make plays. You get a guy that can win his one-on-one matchups over there consistently on the other side of Davante, and then we got some action.
I noticed you didn't know Juju Smith-Schuster, no Odell Beckham Jr., no Michael Thomas, no DJ Chark, no? Okay, yeah, I didn't think so. I got another one for you. How about DeAndre Hopkins? He's not a free agent, but he is on the trade block. Do you think he could be in the silver and black?
Now we cooking with gasoline over there, huh? This is a move. I mean, like I said, DeAndre Hopkins is not one of those guys that is going to blow the top off of defense by any means. He's never been that guy. But when you got to have it, one-on-one situations, and you want to try to double Davante Adams because you can't just let him win the game. DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that is a quarterback's best friend. You're talking about a guy that done played with 37 different quarterbacks, and you can keep going. And a lot of them ain't been too good. And DeAndre Hopkins' numbers year after year after year, he's been an all-pro guy. it is not a 50-50 ball to him. It is an 80-20 ball, especially when he is 100% healthy. This is a guy that you definitely want to keep your eyes out on, because if you're able to deal for him and give up a second or a third-round pick to get DeAndre Hopkins on the other side of Devontae Adams, that could be a dangerous, dangerous duo.
That would be exciting. So the Cardinals are reported to have him on the trade block. We don't know exactly what they're asking for him. We do know that he's due a little over $19 million this year in cash, a little over $14 million next year. So he's not cheap, but we know what he can do when healthy. I know you also like Brandon Cooks. You interested in him?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. See, that's my favorite. That's my favorite. If I was up there right now, I would go up in their offices right now and I would say, hey, let me put my GM cap on. Let me let y'all know what we're going to do. But Brandon Cooks, I don't know what the price tag is on him, but I do know that they've been shopping him for the last 3 years. You know, he was supposed to get traded this season. I mean, he didn't even show up to practice because he thought he was going to get traded. But this is a guy that everything the Raiders need. Another guy that's been with Coach McDaniels in his system, knows how the Patriots offense is ran, and a guy that is still running 4-3 that can blow the top off of a defense and make explosive plays. I like B. Cooks, Hunter Renfrow, and Devontae Adams more than I like DeAndre Hopkins, Hunter Renfrow, and Devontae Adams. And then we have not even talked about it. You have Brandon Cooks, who's flying down the football field, with Darren Waller, who's flying down the football field, with Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, two of the best route running specialists in the game. I really don't care who's the quarterback. If you can't throw to them, you can't throw to me and you right now, Amber.
Well, my question was, I mean, right now I might as well be on the list of quarterback. We don't know who's playing quarterback, and that's the biggest need for the Raiders this offseason, without a doubt. The quarterback situation, for the first time in 9 years, the Raiders are looking for a quarterback. Derek Carr is going to be with the Saints. And Garbers is on the roster right now, and then Jarrett Stidham, who we saw the last 2 games of last year, he's a free agent, so they could re-sign him. What did you think of what you saw from Jarrett Stidham? Do you think that you would bring him back, and would you bring him back in a backup role and still continue to look for a free agent quarterback, or just go for one of these guys in the draft, the Bryce Youngs, the C.J. Strouds? Well,
first off, I think Stidham showed us everything that we needed to see when you talk about from the quarterback standpoint. He came in, he commanded the offense, he moved the ball down the field. You came in, you started the first game, you played an excellent San Francisco 49ers defense, and you came out there and lit the scoreboard up. You made plays with his arm, he made plays with his legs. So I truly believe he showed the Raiders that, hey, man, I can be that guy. Now, I would bring back Stidham, and I would bring in a veteran. The veteran that comes to mind is Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't see how the Raiders do not bring Jimmy Garoppolo in that building, right? Now you have Stidham. Now you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who knows not to mess up any football games. He knows how to lead teams down the football field. He's not going to make that crucial mistake. He knows Josh McDaniels and his offense. And then that allows you to build up everything else you need to build up on your football team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You have everything you need on the offensive side of the ball. If you have a guy like Stidham under there, if you bring in a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, they are going to be able to move the football. Now, if you bring in guys like this, when you're able to get them at a reasonable price, now you're able to build up that defense, and that defense will be able to stop some people, and the Raiders will be in good hands.
But, James, those aren't long-term answers. Jimmy Garoppolo, Jarrett Stidham.
No.
I like that for this year. That's not a long-term answer. So are you implying when you say that answer that they need to go get one of these young quarterbacks in the draft? And at 7, you know, we'll do a draft special later. Yeah. We'll get into this. But at 7, you're going to have to probably go up to get one of those guys.
Yeah, and it's all about falling in love with one of those guys, right? You know, if you're really in love with one of those guys and you truly believe that is your guy, then yes, do what you got to do to go up and get him. But for me, my plan will be I can ride with Jarrett Stidham and Jimmy Garoppolo and then revisit this quarterback situation again next year. You know, I'm not necessarily, unless that is my guy, unless they are sitting in meetings right now and they are saying C.J. Stroud is our guy, or whoever is our guy, and you want to go up and get them, then that's totally fine. But if you're like, hey, we got eyeballs on a couple other guys in the draft coming out next year, you know, or maybe some free agents coming out next year, you're able to get by with Jarrett Stidham and Jimmy Garoppolo under center, and it gives you a year to be able to build up that defense, to be able to stop people. I mean, we've seen the San Francisco 49ers go out there and win games with Brock Purdy, you know, and it's not like he's just a superstar phenom quarterback. Excellent defense. Beautiful weapons around him. Success.
That's right. Speaking of beautiful weapons, Josh Jacobs is certainly a beautiful weapon in the NFL as he led the league in rushing. And you know what? The Raiders, they said, prove it, and he did. He had a great year, and he was the top running back in the NFL, and they just hit him with the franchise tag. And so now both sides have until July 15th to go after a long-term deal. But if that doesn't happen, he'll play under the tag, and he'll get $10 million. That's what the tag number is. Is this just indicative of a bigger trend in the NFL? We look at Saquon Barkley, we'll look at these other running backs. Running backs just aren't valued in the NFL. We're seeing these running backs are going to get tagged. They don't get their second contracts. Is this just, it is what it is, even when you lead the league.
Yeah. And I think what teams are starting to see is they can get by and they can win games with running backs that they don't have to pay big time money. I mean, you've seen the best running back on the Cowboys this year was Tony Pollard. You know, they didn't extend him and give him a big time contract. They tagged him. And then when you watch guys, when you pay big time money, they tend to fall off. I mean, you see McCaffrey fall off in Carolina. You kind of seen Derrick Henry falling off in Tennessee. You know, so running back wise is people can really win games without a superstar guy at the running back position. I'm glad they were able to tag Josh Jacobs. Hopefully they can come together and really put together a nice little deal for him, because we all watched all the games last year, in and out, broke them all down. They don't win half them games if Josh Jacobs is not on that football field. Josh Jacobs showed that he is an every down back. He can catch it out the backfield and run it out the backfield. Now, I don't know what he's asking, what number he's asking for, but he's definitely a young guy that needs to stay around in this offense for a long time. So hopefully they could come together with a deal, but I understand the franchise tag.
All right, James, it's always good to catch up with you, my friend. Next time, get back here in studio so we can do a real show together, please. Maybe the draft?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Be there soon. Let's do it.
All right. Thanks, James. Well, that'll do it for part one of our Raiders free agency preview. Stay tuned for part two as we focus on the defense. We're going to hear from former Raider Kirk Morrison and Raiders beat writer Vinny Bonsignore. Stay up to date on everything silver and black by following the Raiders on social media and checking out Raiders.com. I'm Amber Theoharis. I'll see you guys next time.